Alright, so we're talking spin-offs, and I think I'd really like to see a Gears spin-off with Coltrane. And it wouldn't be like a normal, like he's playing through just a Cole campaign. What it would be is a thrashball game. It would just be a sports thrashball game. Now, I don't actually know what thrashball is. We saw a little bit of it in Gears 3. He had that like weird flashback scenario. But it basically looked like some kind of football mixed with rugby. But what it should be is, and I don't know how the rules of thrashball go, but what it should be is, it should be like, you ever play that old game, Dead Ball Zone? I don't know why I'm asking the camera. It's not like you can physically tell me right now. But if you play that old game, Dead Ball Zone, it was sort of like this weird futuristic rugby. You could also shoot people and chainsaw them and stuff. And if you could win by scoring enough points, but you could also win by taking out the entire enemy team, which was awesome. And so, thrashball should be like that. You should have your Lancer and be able to chainsaw people in half. And obviously the goal is still to get the ball from one end of the field to the other, but you can murder each other because it's Gears.
Characters that need a spin-off. Immediately, who's the guy that gets like the most on in video game history? It's Tails. Where's his moment in the sun? If Luigi can get his own game, Tails deserves to get his own game. Think about it. You can have a game where Tails actually has to save Sonic. And you're probably thinking, no, a game with Tails, that won't work. Look at Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Conquest. The game was all about Diddy, this character that was just brought into the franchise one game before and actually had to save the main character. And Donkey Kong Country 2 is probably arguably the best Donkey Kong Country, so if it could work there, Tails deserves his own game. He can fly around, he has all the same abilities as Sonic. Like, technically, Tails is better than Sonic. All the same moves, and he can fly. Tails, I'm rooting for you. Just as long as you aren't in some ghost house, like vacuuming up ghosts. You deserve more than that. Plus, he flies a plane! Come on! There could be a level where you're flying a plane. It's awesome!
Spin-offs, let's see. Well, I've been playing Heart of the Swarm lately, the new StarCraft game. Does anyone remember the Ghost spin-off that was supposed to happen, where it would be like you follow around a ghost from the StarCraft universe, and it's like a first-person shooter, and you can like cloak and take on Ultralisks, and it never happened? Why didn't they give us that? That would have been awesome. You could have done any ghost. You could have even put Kerrigan in there and done her missions like before she got transformed into what she is now, and had kind of like a Kerrigan side story going on there. You could have done Nova. Nova is a pretty badass ghost in the new game. Really, any ghost would have been cool. Why didn't that happen? Come on, Blizzard, get your shit together. I know, you're working on Diablo 3 for the PlayStation or something, but you could have made Ghost. You could have done it.
The Mass Effect franchise had so many cool characters. I know you're probably thinking, oh, Jovin's talking about Mass Effect. Oh, surprise, surprise. But think about it. You can play as Thane in his own game. Remember the first time we saw Thane? He kind of dropped behind all the guards and he's just like pulling heads, shooting people. He was the most badass assassin that we may have ever seen in a video game until you got him on your team. And then he was just another third-person shooter where he had a small pistol and a sniper and he was hiding behind. He wasn't an assassin. As soon as he joined your team, he became a bitch. And then he died. And then everyone's like, no, don't kill Thane, there's so much potential. Everyone knew there was so much potential with Thane, and that's why he deserves his own game, where it can be stealth-based. You can actually go around killing people, like with silent takedowns, and like, you know, all the martial arts combos in there. Man, just remembering back in 3 when he had his moment where he kind of saves the day a little bit. You just know this guy's so badass and you want to play as him. I say, give Thane his own game.
So most of us have probably played World of Warcraft at one point or another. It's awesome because it's Warcraft in the Warcraft universe and there's so many cool stories and characters, but then it's also an MMO, which is a fun format to do it in. But what I've always wanted is a world of StarCraft, a StarCraft MMO. Now, I don't actually know. Lasercorn can probably tell you better why that would be awesome because he's more the StarCraft fan, but the StarCraft universe has always been awesome, it's always been cool, and the different races would make for a really, really interesting MMO. I don't know if you could be like a Zerg wizard. I'm sure if you wouldn't want to be like a Zergling and just like peck at people. You'd probably have to be some sort of sentient, above the hive type special Zerg. But yeah, it would be awesome to play as one of those races in that universe.
Did anyone ever play Dino Crisis? I really liked Dino Crisis. It was kind of it was like Resident Evil with dinosaurs instead of zombies. It was awesome. And I always thought it would be a cool spin-off if you could play that game as one of the Velociraptors and just rip everyone's throat out. Like, the Velociraptor was so badass, the first time I saw it, I'm like, oh, this is my first enemy in the game. I'm just going to shoot it and kill it. And the Velociraptor pretty much laughs at you when you shoot it with the very first gun. It's like, no, you're supposed to run from me. Yeah, and then it tries to kill you. And yeah, that's what you're supposed to do, is run away from the Velociraptor even though you had a gun. And that's all I want, is humans running away from me in fear and terror down the corridors of that weird military installation. So the Dino Crisis Velociraptor spin-off, make it happen. Please, I would like it.
And then finally, there's so many damn Batman games that come out. You got Arkham Asylum and City and all the old Batman games for all the old like 16-bit and 8-bit consoles. There's so many Batman games. Where's the Joker game? I mean, I'm sure one exists somewhere and it's really obscure, but come on. How could it not be awesome to play as the Joker in an Arkham City type game? It would basically just be like GTA, but in the Batman universe, which how is that not awesome? You can just run around and kill whoever you want and do whatever you want. Plus, Joker's got all the cool gadgets and stuff. Why is that game? I'm sure it's being worked on, but maybe Warner Brothers, come on, just like speed up the process. The Joker game, get that one out.
And what about the Space Core from Portal 2? I guess I have to put a spoiler alert here if you haven't finished Portal 2. But you really should have finished Portal 2 by now, but if you haven't, click away. But anyway, the Space Core, at the very end of the game, ends up in space, floating around with Wheatley, and he's so happy. He's like, space! Why can't we just follow him around on his magical space adventures, encountering new species as he floats around, and maybe like there's some threat to the galaxy, I don't know, maybe the Combine get out there or something, and the Space Core has to take up arms, and he's like, I must defend space! And he like charges into battle crying space. That would be a fun game. I would play that game. Even if it was just like a browser-based or like a really cheap $10 game that they made just for funsies, I would play that. Space Core spin-off. Valve, if you're listening, do it. Make it happen.
And finally, who deserves a good spin-off? The bad guys. Let's go with Starwolf and his group of evildoers. I remember in Star Fox 64, you're flying around, it's like, ooh, what am I doing this level? And all of a sudden you're fighting like the mirror image of your own team with Starwolf, and you're like, oh, it's an actual dogfight, and it was one of the cooler stages in Star Fox 64. You even got to play as Starwolf in Super Smash Bros. Brawl, so you already know, like, you had the chance. They kind of teased you with the ability to play with them. Now let's really look at what this game would be like. You probably start off as the bad guys, and so instead of like going in and flying and saving a city, you're actually going in and destroying a city. I actually have to give props to the assistant editor Wes. He brought this one up, and I couldn't agree with him more. Like, being able to destroy a city would be so much fun. But let's have some redemption. You can't just play as a bad guy the entire time. You can start off, maybe you actually like have to team up with Star Fox somewhere in this game to kind of like save someone, and then you're like, oh man, these people have been helping out. The bad guys, they're actually, well, bad guys. I maybe need to take them down. Then you can team up with Star Fox to like 8-player co-op. It could be amazing. Give Starwolf his own spin-off. It would be epic. And yes, I love playing as the bad guy. That's why I'm single. But I don't care because I'm the bad guy and it's so much fun, so suck it.